Greetings all. It's a Puna wet morning here, and Gracie's hiding inside. Well, I've mentioned before that, my early education was a Christian one. I spent 8 years in Christian education, and of course we studied the Bible extensively. And, one of the things that we were taught was about prophecy. The Bible's full of it. Yeah, back in those days, we had prophets that who were walking up and down the streets that were probably about as troublesome as pharmaceutical commercials are today. It was a common thing. You could usually tell them they walked around without any clothes on. Anyway, so, I grew up with this background where we were taught that the ability to see future, to predict famine in Egypt and so on, that there were people who could do this, and that it was common too, actually. That was a lot of what I was taught that I have rejected, but the idea of prophecy I never did reject, because it turned out that I myself have engaged in the same practice that I don't control it, but I'll have dreams where I see things that do occur later, and see them perfectly sometimes. It's quite scary. I trust that somehow or another, that being able to see events of future is a real situation for humans. I believe it seems mysterious because we tend to live in a Newtonian physical universe, but we're also living in a quantum physics field, and I think it's the quantum physics field that allows these time slips where we can see around the corner of time. Yeah. Well, anyway, because I had been taught and learned to take prophecy very seriously, not to be taken lightly. I was a teenager, and because of associations with people and whatnot, I had a gypsy lady give me a palm reading at one time, and she said several things. There were two of us, and she was comparing the differences on our hands for us, and much of what she had to say about that did seem pretty right on. But you can find that information other ways too. But when she took a look at my hand, her eyes rolled back. She dropped it for a second, whistled, and said, "Buddy, I've seen a lot of palms, and you got the longest lifeline I have ever seen." Then she follows it with, "You will watch everybody that you knew and loved pass away before you're off this earth." Oh yeah, thanks a lot. Great bedside manner, gypsy baby. So it stuck with me. When it comes to prophecy, I don't think the medium, what you use, whether it's tea leaves, whether you're using stars, whether you're using lines on a palm, I don't think the medium really matters. It's the person. Yeah, it's the person. You could do it with the stars. You could do it with hand lines. You could do it with anything. I think this is true. So I don't really differentiate, how information comes to us that way. Well, looks like Gracie decided to come out. Hi, Gracie. Yeah, she came in soaking wet once. Well, okay. A bit of digression about palm reading, prophecy, and so on. Good friend Mac called yesterday. Yeah, Mac and I, we've known each other since we were in high school. Our association has been pretty tight. The circle of friends there that we had back in those days. Now, Mac has been a bass player almost his entire life, although he and I never actually played together in any bands. We did enough jamming, so we've done picking and grinning, but we never did have an organized band. But we've known each other, I think sophomore in high school. I think Mac probably moved from Kankakee, Illinois to Palatine. And he's a direct descendant of Daniel Boone. It looks like it. I took one look at him and I said, I like that guy. Yeah, we've been friends ever since. Anywho, otherwise, Mac has been plays still yet today. He lives in Florida today. He plays in several rock and roll bands. He's in demand. The guy's still at it. He'd been a bartender much of his life. I've been a mover and hauler too. That was one of the associations Mac and I had, that occasionally I would hire Mac to help me. Well, when I had a moving and hauling company in Chicago many years ago. He used to help me move stuff, pianos. So this all goes back. Anyhow, well, there were a number of rock bands in the town I grew up in, and we were associated, sort of like the Airplane and the Dead, or the Quicksilver, that we all intermingled and we shared players and stories and hung out, together and stuff like this. And then there were all those people that just loved music. And so if you could see, it was like one major rotating cog with other cogs that would meet into it and rotate around it, as far as this amorphous planetary gear assembly of associations of people. It was fairly large, actually, if you went all the way out to the fringes. But right in the core, there are about maybe a dozen people or something on that order that were really tight. We'd see each other almost every day, always on our minds. And well, over time, that would be in the teens and the early 20s. You know how it is. People, they get married, they move away, they do all kinds of different things, right? They get involved in their work or whatever. And so this sort of stuff sort of falls apart over time. I think it's natural. But I think we're really lucky people who do have friends that you can date back to your childhood and you still know them and you can still share these experiences you've both been through. To me, it's food for the soul. It's important. Every time I get on a phone or talk story to face with old friend or my brother or something, it's like, oh man, it's food. Yeah. I come away from it feeling good for days sometimes. Well, Mac, he was a very important cog in these relationships, in that as people moved away and these things broke down, Mac kept them together. Yep, at least once a year. Probably because Mac was a bartender, he would call everyone. Yeah, and he talked to Jackie for a while. He talked to Rick. He talked to Alex, and so on. And all these people that we knew, Mac would say, well, how's it going? What's going on in your life? Here's what's going on in mine. Then he'd call the next one, and then he'd call the next one, and he'd get kind of a little chain letter going between everybody that used to know. How's Jackie doing? So he was information central. Well, this was fun, and for years this went on. If there was ever a year that Mac didn't call, I'd have to call him and go, what's wrong? Why aren't you calling me? Well, anyway, so he called yesterday, and, well, in recent times, when he calls, there's no point in asking, how's this person doing or that person doing, because we both know they're dead. Or if they aren't dead, they got lost. This happens too. People just disappear. We don't know what happened to them. As Paul Wallen, Mac is still looking for Paul Wallen, who did the absolute best backwards imitation of Ed Sullivan I've ever seen. Yes, Paul Addison stitches. He grew up to be a patent attorney, but he probably should have been a stand-up comic. Well, we can't find him. He's vanished. I don't know. Anyway, so this is what Mac would do. Well, over time, one by one by one by one by one, call list keeps getting shorter and shorter and shorter. Mac is 1 month younger than me. We're born 1 month apart, and so we're almost identically the same age, so much of the same experiences. Even our brain wiring is apparently fairly similar because of some experiences we share. But every time it gets a little sadder, and it was pretty sad this time. We're looking for Paul. What happened to Paul? We talked about somebody else who went, and I had to get into my conversation about the smell of death and flowers, Well, I realized something. Life's kind of like George Orwell's Animal Farm novella. You ever read that? It's not banned in the U.S., I don't think, but it's banned in a lot of places because it really disses the development of communism and the fall of it. It was about the Soviet Socialist Republic. But in that novella, Orwell writes the pigs in as being the longest living animals on the farm. And since the pigs have been around all this time, they know more than everybody else does. And that's what happens when you live a long time. You gain wisdom if you're a student. If you don't freeze your mind, solidify the world, and say, this is reality, that's it. If you don't do that and you get older, you become wiser over time. As long as you're open to change and you're able to allow your thought process to move forward and continue developing as you get older, you gain wisdom. I don't get any smarter, but I understand more things than I used to. That's about the way to put it. There's some things, as a young man, that I didn't understand about old men. It's one of those things that's unwritten. It almost runs in the blood. It's genetic. Like, when I was younger, I never understood, why do these guys, when a child is born, right? They'll walk up, they'll look at the kid, they'll look at the father, and they'll go, yeah, Charlie looks just like you. I didn't realize, this is dumb. The kid doesn't look just like him. It looks like the wife had, sex with a rhinoceros. Look at the kid's nose, blah, blah. It often didn't make any sense when they'd say it. That's why, what are they saying? What is this? But I found out it's kind of like, how you doing, right? It's a greeting. You suck. You feel terrible, but yet, how you doing, right? We do that stuff. Well, it's the same with babies being born. What it says is that one guy looks at the other guy from the beginning of time, back to the Stone Age, and says, yeah, I know you're going to have to hunt an extra carcass and some more meat for this one. It looks just like it, Charlie. Yeah, I'm sure it's your kid. That's what it says. And it's an unwritten thing, it seems, amongst males. I don't even think the women know about this. And you see the same thing with old men, too. And it used to confuse me. They arm wrestle the Grim Reaper. Guys my age, we ain't taking up hang gliding, all right? And even regular arm wrestling with my buddies, it's not worth the effort. It really isn't. So what happens over time, I saw this with my grandfather, and that he was born in a bedroom in the part of Germany where there weren't any birth records at that time, and so nobody really knew how old Adolf was. He could claim he was any age. Well, he used to generally claim he was about 5 years older than he really was, and the reason why? Because people would say, "Oh my goodness, Adolf, you look so good for your age." Right, Gracie? Yeah. Yeah, so he'd lie about it. Of course, I don't know if it was a lie if you don't know when you were really born, but yeah, he'd make up stories over his age to make himself look like he was better and stronger than the other old people near him, see? I used to watch him and his buddy Granky playing cards and smoking cigars, doing this arm wrestle with the Grim Reaper. It's like, they'd look at each other and he'd go, lie about his age, and he'd go, look how good I look, yeah, you're younger than me, and yeah, you're falling apart. I don't know if you're going to make it to Christmas, I'm going to make it to Christmas, Well, I realize now, hey, what's up there, boo-boo? As Mac gets down the list. Here's my kitty, she's trying to jump on my lap. What's up, Gracie? You want to get in that video bad, don't you? Yeah, she says, come on, get me in here. All right, here you are. Yeah, they look at each other and they arm wrestle the Grim Reaper. They'll dare each other to drop dead first. Yeah, it's true. Old men will do this thing. They don't all. Some of us are scared of death. To do this, you either have to be probably in one of two situations. You either don't care whether you live or die because life is meaningless to you. That does happen as you get older. You get tired of it. Yeah, you start falling apart. I've been in the situation before, where I hurt so bad that I really wished I was gone. Yeah, during heart attack, during COVID. I said, take me. I'm out of here. Come on. I don't want to be around anymore. Yeah, death can be your friend. It can be your buddy. As you wear down and life just becomes unbearable, you reach for it with open arms, knowing that you're doing it. You bring it on as part of the family. That's a natural thing. It's going to take you one way or another, so you may as well just get used to the idea. Yeah, I sit periodically and have long conversations with it. Just to get used to the idea. I know my time isn't much longer either, That's the point. We know. As you get older, you're not going to make it too much longer. And especially once you start outliving all your friends and relatives. And as it gets out to the point, that maybe I've got about 4 or 5 people, roughly, I think, maybe 6, still, that I knew as a boy, that are still here, and that I still talk to them. But they're less and less every year, less and less. And I can see this getting whittled down to just me and Mac on a telephone going, they're all gone, guy. When's the phone going to stop ringing, huh? And it's a dare. That's an ego challenge. Now, what are you going to do with it anyway? You're going to drop dead. You may as well make an arm wrestle out of it, because sport is what keeps us alive. And so I find myself challenging my friends to the grave. This is something I never thought I'd be doing when I was younger, with the kind of comfort that I have. I'm not a guy who's afraid of death. It's one of the things that bothers me. Been there already, and several times had near-death experiences. Anyway, there you go. Arm wrestling the Grim Reaper. Aloha. Y'all have a good one. Hang loose. Me and Gracie are gonna, I guess, go back inside. But she's being unusual today, isn't she, huh? Look at this. There's my kitty cat. Huh? She doesn't usually want to jump up in my lap to get in the camera. Do you? Not usually. She usually wants to sit on the ground down there, but she says, come on, Bill, get me in the picture. I know what the program is. If you don't get my face in the picture, when the people come by, they're not going to go, oh, look, it's the Gracie cat, right? Yeah, they do. Yeah. They run up and they go, oh, it's that cat, Gracie. I think she's getting to understand this. This is one smart animal. Trust me. She is not a dumb animal, right, Grace? Not. You were smart enough to come wandering up here to my place, weren't you? Yeah, I don't know how you know that I was going to let you in, because I never was a real cat guy. No, this is highly unusual that I have a friend for a cat. A cat for a friend? Friend for a cat? Whatever. Yeah. Aloha.